The Commission talks about prioritising growth and competitiveness. It also talks about the importance of climate action, young people, human rights. But perpetual growth is not compatible with climate action. Growth is increasing, emissions are increasing, but climate action is not even running to standstill. It's an emergency, but it's more talk than action. We're not getting the action. I also believe that more budgetary margins should be mobilised. It's not like as if everything is okay. It's okay to put money away for a rainy day if things are grand, but they're not grand. We have poverty, we have working poverty. Small businesses right across Europe are struggling. Why aren't we dealing with using some of this money that you're putting aside to deal with inequality? You talk about human rights. Well, yeah, human rights is a huge issue. The right to a livable wage, the right to housing, the right to healthcare. Why aren't we putting more into that? You talk about European values and helping NGOs, that would underpin democracy and the rule of law. Rule of law. What about the imprisonment of the Catalonians? What about the imprisonment of Julian Assange? There's too many inconsistencies in your approach.
I listened to Mick Wallace. I found that extremely interesting, what he had to say. Let me respond. Growth. Is it bad for climate change and protecting the climate? Necessarily, I would dispute that. I could imagine the European economy growing, and that not to the detriment of protecting the climate, but to help protect the climate, or at least for it to be neutral. And let me just say two things on that. The whole services sector, where people are provided with care, where people are educated and trained, where children are looked after and brought up. Growth can do that, but we've got emissions coming from our chimneys and we've got greenhouse gases, but it's not related to that. So the question is where the economy is to grow. Energy. Say you wanted to have more wind energy, and in Ireland I know that there is a desire for that. You'd need steel, aluminium, copper and concrete to create those wind turbines. And the question is then, how is steel, copper, aluminium and concrete produced? In modern steel works, which are highly efficient, environmentally friendly, or from abroad, from old steel works with price dumping and more emissions. So I would ask you to accept this idea that you can have economic growth in GDP is not to necessarily be combined with CO2 emission growth. And the European Commission over recent decades, we've seen an increase in the economy, but we've seen a decrease in CO2 emissions in recent years. And so with a growing economy, it is possible to do that, and I think that is the proof of it. The final point is that we have to have growth in those areas where there are regions of Europe lagging behind, and I would hope that in Bulgaria, in the eastern part of Croatia, that you would achieve the same social well-being as in Dublin or in Stuttgart. Anything else would be a lack of solidarity. So growth policy is part of our cohesion, infrastructure and research, and you need to make sure that climate damaging emissions are decoupled from that, and that is actually possible.